Hey Dialectics, I got a crazy one for you today. We're actually going to agree with Tucker Carlson. Just kind of wild, makes my brain hurt. But yeah, here we go.
At some point, the basic economics really matter, and they matter because not that it's bad that rich people are getting richer, it's bad that everyone else is getting poorer.
What he doesn't understand is the reason everyone else is getting poorer is because the rich are getting richer.
It's especially bad that young people can't afford homes. Let me just put a very precise point on this. If you want a measure of how your economy is doing, I personally favor eliminating GDP as a measure. I don't even know what that is.
I totally agree with this. We should get rid of the measure of GDP. It's all nonsense that they can manipulate in 100 different ways, and it doesn't actually affect the average person.
Clearly not relevant. They tell me Japan has a stagnant GDP. Have you been to Tokyo? It's the single most radicalizing experience you'll ever have because it's just so nice.
That's actually true. Japan has been the stagnant GDP now since basically like the 90s, and it's actually very nice there.
You lost the war? Really? Can we lose a war and wind up like this? GDP. No. I don't know what even that is. The total economic activity. Oh, no. My measure is really simple. I got a bunch of kids. Can they afford houses with full-time jobs at like 27, 28?
That's a pretty good measure, actually.
And the answer is no way. And the answer is that 35-year-olds with really good jobs can't afford a house unless they stretch and go deep into debt.
Sure, we're getting out to the point now where 40-year-olds can't afford a house without going deep into debt.
And I just think that's a total disaster. That's a complete disaster. Why? Two reasons. One, if people don't own things, they don't feel ownership of the country they're in. And the country.
That's actually true. It's one of the biggest things is if you don't own things, you don't feel like you're actually part of the community. It's done on purpose.
The country gets super volatile because people feel like they've got nothing to lose. When you have a lawn, trust me, you're thinking long term. Second, it's really hard to have a family without a house.
If you have a lawn, lawns are just stupid. We should get rid of them and, grow food.
It is. It's like super fun to live in an apartment if, there's like a bar downstairs, you're in a cool neighborhood. I'm in East Village, it's so cool. Try to have 3 kids. You're not gonna have 3 kids there, you can't. Nobody wants to raise their kids in that neighborhood. Nobody wants to raise their kids in an apartment. People do it because they have to, nobody wants to.
That's actually why the population is going down. When you live on the farm, kids are free labor. When you move into the city, kids become expensive pets.
People want a little house, not some McMansion, just a little normal house. That is the actual American dream. And that is what is totally unattainable for young people.
That was done on purpose.
And so the only young people in general that you will ever meet who have houses are young people whose parents help them. And God bless their parents. That's a perfectly great thing to do for your kids. But most people's parents can't afford to do that because they're already in debt from their pointless college degree. So that is a national emergency. One of the reasons it's happening is because normal people with normal jobs no longer believe they can win in this system.
But there's a reason for that, because normal people with normal jobs can't win in this system because it's been rigged by the rich.
All the money is going to the worst people. And no one even stops to ask what the hell is going on. What I'm saying is that our leadership class should say something about it and should assign a moral value to it. And if you're getting rich by loaning money to people at incredibly high interest rates, that's something you're gonna have to talk to God about. That is.
Now, I don't worry about the God thing, but I do agree that if you're doing that, you're probably not a good person.
Not good. That is not virtuous. That's disgusting. And the fact that nobody feels free to say that, nobody feels like you can just say like 30% on a credit card? Why is anybody paying a credit card bill? Because they always say.
Because if they don't, then it'll screw up their credit score and they'll never be able to buy a house or do anything.
Hey, like if the very rich, if you borrow enough from a bank, you're kind of in charge of the bank because they need you to pay them back. So they're totally happy to negotiate terms with you.
That's very, very true. If you owe a bank $1 billion, they'll renegotiate because they want their $1 billion back.
But if you borrow a little bit from the bank, they'll just take your house away. So what if people got together and just decided, wait a second, 30% interest is a lot, especially since they're pushing credit cards on kids like crack. And I know that conservatives are always like, well, it's your fault if you don't pay back the credit card. Yeah, okay, it's my fault, but maybe it's a little bit their fault too.
100%. It's a system that is exploiting people. It's crazy how he can come to all these conclusions but never realize that it's the tax incentive structure that gives all the money to rich people that caused this.
They're pushing this crap on kids. So I say to this guy, maybe just people get together, not like everybody, but just a couple million people are not going to pay our credit cards, and just like bring the bank to its knees, and the CEO weeps on television, they readjust it down a little bit. And he goes, oh, no, that's radical.
Yeah, that is radical, but it's actually a really good idea. If everyone stopped paying their credit cards all at the same time, stuff would collapse.
That's too radical. And I'm like, I don't think I'm very radical. I think I'm like very moderate, super moderate. I hate change. My parents got divorced. I hate change. I like things to be exactly the same every day. I'm not radical. What I am is very worried that if we don't do something really soon, we're going to wind up like New York City.
You're not going to wind up like New York City. Eventually, it's going to get to the point where people are going to grab their torches and pitchforks.
That there's going to be actual radicalism. And that radicalism will take very unhelpful forms. And you're going to see race and ethnic hatred that's real. And that you're going to see people behaving in hard-to-control ways. I want to look around and see a better country. I want to see a country I recognize. I don't want to see people sleeping on the sidewalk. I don't see people ODing on drugs. I want to know where those drugs coming from. Why can't you stop it? You've got the U.S. military. Don't you have SEAL Team 6? Like, what are they doing today? Don't you have Delta Force? You could give me another segment about how impressive the U.S. military is? I believe you. Why aren't they employed to make my country better?
Well, because the military aren't cops, so that seems like a bad idea. But employing them to make the country better is actually a good idea. Like, we should do what FDR did and just, during the New Deal, create a civilian workforce and put them to work doing stuff.
Why are my cities disgusting? I don't even want to go there. It smells like weed and halal food. And you're lecturing me about how it's a great moral victory that I kicked the boys off the girls' soccer team? Good, I'm so glad. But let's do the real stuff, like making New York livable.
Yeah, making New York livable. Capitalism is designed to keep everybody poor. I don't know why he can't figure this out.
And create an economy where my kids can have kids. How about this? How about we just make the measure really super simple? Can my children have without the benefit of like the great luck I have had, can they have a roughly approximate life that I had? Or how about just a middle-class life? I think it's so important for every person to look around and make your own decisions about what's important. What's important to you? What around you in your life? What do you see in your family, among your friends, in the town that you live in that's going wrong? Those are the biggest problems. Not what some shill on television is telling you your biggest problems are.
He's actually right about this. Most people's biggest problems are economic problems. But the fact that you can't pay your rent is not the fault of immigrants. It's the fault of the rich.
Shut up. But he won't. But look around. What's the biggest problem in your life? And if you're burdened by a car loan or some credit card payment you can never actually make, if you can't afford to make the full payment on your credit card 2 months in a row, that's a crisis, okay? That's a crisis. If you're in the hole to DraftKings to a point where you can't pay. No, I'm serious. These are huge problems, and most of
that sports betting thing is a huge problem, and it's mostly poor people who are losing thousands of dollars to it. It's kind of sad.
them are money related. And if they're not solved, you're not getting married, and you're not having children, and you're not going to have a happy, fulfilling life, period. And they tell you, oh, it's all about values. Yeah, okay, values. You can't afford a house? I don't care what your values are like. You're not having 4 kids in an apartment.
That's 100% true. If your values are you want to have kids and you can't afford a house, then you'll never meet your values.
So you need to be heard on that. And anyone who tells you, oh, shut up, racist, hoist the middle finger.
Of course, he has to make racist comments because he is still a racist. He doesn't realize that the fact that there's other people is not the problem. The problem is the rich people.
And tell him, keep talking to me that way, pal, and we'll punish you.
Yeah, so not too often I agree with Tucker Carlson, but he made a lot of good points in there. It's just wild that he hasn't come to the conclusion that capitalism is the problem. But he'll never come to that conclusion because, he's super rich. If you like this video, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Check out my Patreon. Have a good day, guys.